nice words to them, and they bloom and they flourish. And plants who are in homes where there's a lot of chaos and confusion, they don't do so well. There was a Japanese scientist, Dr. Emoto. He did an experiment with water. Many of you have heard of that. How when water was exposed to positive words and intentions, they had beautiful, symmetrical, crystalline structures when they were frozen. But when words that were negative or disorganized, the same water formed crystals that were disorganized and asymmetrical structures. So just words carry power. Words have energy. So the point that I'm making right here is that energy impacts all living beings. Doesn't matter if it's human being or if it's animal being or plant being. Energy connects us all together, and we impact our world with that energy. I want to give you this information about this amazing thing here. It's called the body. 1,500 pages of scientific work finally estimated that the male human body has 36 trillion cells and the female human body has 28 trillion cells. Now I know that those scientists were male because, I don't understand why I have less cells, okay? But science had this false belief for many, many years that the organs in the body were all separate, that the liver was separate from the kidney and everything was separate. But what they found out, what they know today, there's a divine connection and there's a divine pattern that keeps the body functioning. The cells of the body are intelligent. They know what they're supposed to be doing. Look, there's no jealousy inside of the cells. There's no bullying inside of the cells, animosity, feelings of abandonment. The fingernail cell doesn't look down at the toenail cell and say, you know what, I'm better than you because I'm higher up than you. That does not happen in the body, okay? The body works together in harmony. And it works that way because the purpose of the cells is to keep this divine, magnificent specimen working and functioning all the time. Well, guess what? Our individual bodies make up a cell in the body of the universal intelligence, the body of God. We are individual cells. Just like there's 30 trillion cells in our bodies, there are 8.1 billion human beings on the planet, and they're just a part of that universal body. Just a small part. But the human beings, our cells are interconnected the same way that the cells in the body are interconnected. What impacts me impacts you. My thoughts, you pick up. Whatever I send out impacts everything around me. My thoughts, behaviors, if they're in harmony and peace, they create this thing called abundant life. But if they go out and they're chaotic and they're angry and they're animosity filled, it creates something else called death. Right now, the universal body is experiencing illness and dis-ease because the human cells, us, we've forgotten that we're divinely connected. We have forgotten that. This is a fact that when I read it, it really, really impacted me. Since 1970, humanity has wiped out 60% of the mammals, birds, fish, and reptiles on the planet. 60%. if there was a 60% decline in human population, that would be the equivalent of North America, South America, Africa, Europe, China, and Oceania. The scale of the destruction by human beings living outside of that divine pattern right now is devastating. But it is time. Those three words, it is time, those three words usually signal the arrival of life and the departure of life. When that woman's getting ready to have that baby, we say, it's time, come. And then when that divine being is getting ready to depart, we send out another call. Please come, it's time. They're getting ready to make their transition. Well, I say right now that it's time that we are inside of what I am calling a spiritual climate change. It's the birthing of a spiritual awakening, calling for spiritual emotional intelligence. Spiritual emotional intelligence is a new way of being where we can understand and remember that we are divinely connected and move back into the divine pattern that's already operating in the universe. And we can begin to release those old patterns of separation. We want to create life balance. That's what spiritual emotional intelligence is. It's simply life balance. It's every human cell remembering that they have a divine connection to themselves, to their body. Because remember, some of us have forgotten we're connected to our body. And we're giving our body all types of things. The body does not know what to do with that stuff that we're giving it. Inside of the body, it's so intelligent that when something enters into it, it will send out sentinels, to look around and say, wait a minute, what is that over there? We don't recognize that. And they go after it to remove it because it's going to cause disharmony in the body. We have forgotten that we're connected to our body. So we give it stuff in the body. It's like, we don't know what to do with that. Okay, take it, stick it in that cell over there. Stick it in that cell over there. And we begin to go like this because so much stuff is being put in our body that the body doesn't know what to do with it. We need to begin to create balance with ourselves. Understand that we're connected to those cells in our body. Our consciousness is connected. We have to also remember that we have a connection with other living beings. Not only other human beings, but every entity on the planet, we have a connection. We need to bring ourselves back into balance. We also need to have a connection with our divine self, with God, with universal intelligence, with spirit. We need to have a connection there. All of that creates spiritual emotional intelligence. And when we're standing inside of spiritual emotional intelligence, guess what? We fall right in line with every other entity on the planet. And we do what we are designed to do, is to create life. Consciousness allows us to function as divinely connected beings within that divine pattern. I want to give you an example of the fact that there are cultures that already know that, and they're operating that way. When I lived in Africa and I studied under an African mystic, one of the things he would have me do is go out and gather plants and herbs that he would use to create healing medicines with. And I would do that, but I would take a little bag of tobacco with me. And when the plant was identified that I was going to harvest, I would kneel down and I would say a prayer. I would thank that plant for it giving its life to me. And I would say, I'm going to give you an offering. And I would gently remove it out of the earth. And then I would place tobacco there as an offering. That was done with every single herb that we used inside of creating medicines. It was given reverence because I'm connected to this plant and it's giving its life for me. And I wanted to be respectful. And I offer the tobacco as an offering, not only energetically, but physically, because tobacco is going to go in and it's going to intermingle with the soil and help the rest of the plant to continue to grow in harmony. So the circle of consciousness, that is the name of my ministry. When we understand and recognize that there is a circle of consciousness and that our thoughts go into this consciousness, some of us call it race consciousness, and that it is impacting all of us all the time. I want to ask you a quick question. How many of you have been waking up feeling like down, low, just energetically low? You can raise your hand. If that's the case, a lot of that has to do with the consciousness that's going on around us. It's invisible. We can't see it, but it is happening all the time. And when you understand that, guess what? You get to pull yourself out of that consciousness and you get to recenter yourself. We are the helpers of the universal body. Just like inside of our physical body, there are cells, they are designed to help the immune system. That's what they do. Well, guess what? We are the immune system in the body of God. It is our responsibility to get in balance and then to go and help those other human cells that are out of balance come back in balance. There are no bad or, hurtful people. They are people who have just forgotten who they are. That's all. And it's up to us to help them remember who they are. So how do we do that? You can become what I'm calling a conscious broadcasting system. You are already a broadcasting system. Trust me. You are already sending out the messages. You can become conscious of that. You can also begin to reassure those who are experiencing dis-ease and don't know it, but are living in fear. I get calls and I get requests to pray with people because they're fearful of what they see, what they hear, what they're feeling. And I get to say, don't worry, it's okay. We're inside of a spiritual climate change. And when change occurs, chaos happens. It gets really chaotic. When something's leaving and something's coming, that in-between state gets very chaotic. And what we get to do is to reassure those individuals that are around us, it's okay, don't worry. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I take that word fear and I shift it to mean there's false evidence appearing real. It's just false evidence appearing real. Or I shift it again and I say, you're forgetting everything's all right. You're forgetting everything's all right. You want to become a broadcasting system that sends out information that is so powerful and so positive that it begins to shift the race consciousness. Race consciousness can be shifted. My hero, President Nelson Mandela, stayed in prison 27 years and held the consciousness. He held the consciousness. That consciousness is that my country will one day be free. He did not know that the world even remembered he was alive. I visited Rodden Island, where he was incarcerated, and I spoke to one of the inmates who is now a tour guide that was with, I don't know about this day, but with Nelson Mandela. And he explained to us, the world, they knew nothing about what was going on in the world, but he held that consciousness. And just him holding that consciousness began to shift the whole world. That's how powerful we are. We can sit in our homes and begin to shift what's going on around us. It's not hopeless. We should be smiling. Yeah, chaos. I want more. I want more. So, I want us to also remember that we have to create our life, bring our life into balance before we can step out and become a broadcasting system that sends out positive. We have to handle what's going on with us. So let us hold in our consciousness, there is no separation between me and thee. Let us hold that. Let us work together to recreate our divine connections so that we begin to live inside of the divine patterns that God has given us. You want to learn more about spiritual emotional intelligence so that you can create a balanced life. At circleofconsciousness.com, I am educating individuals on how to create a balanced life by giving them spiritual emotional intelligence assessments. You take an assessment and it shows you exactly how you're balanced in your world. And then you can begin to make changes in your personal relationship with yourself, in your relationship with others, in your relationship with spirit. You begin to shift and change your own consciousness. When I change my consciousness, then I can allow all other consciousness to shift. This morning, I want to invite each person to sign up for my email list. I will be giving free Zoom calls that will allow you to understand what the spiritual emotional intelligence assessment is all about. Giving you information on how we can become functioning cells in the body of the universal mind and in the universal body, so that we can bring healing to what's going on and help all those cells who have forgotten who they are to come back into the fold. I want to add a blessing to these words and add a blessing to each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.